None of us are doctors. Any and all things that we say on this is for entertainment purposes only. Any persons named or not named and referred to are hypothetical, and every situation that they're brought up in is also a hypothetical situation. That is all.
Yeah, good job.
That's a damn good disclaimer.
Yeah.
Last name ever, first name greatest. Like a sprained ankle, boy, ain't nothing to play with. Started off local, but thanks to all the haters, I know G4 pilots on a first name basis.
Who was that one friend you had that you showed me that was hilarious? I was cracking up. He was running. Was that was your friend, right? He was running. He tested his speed on with a.
Johnny.
Johnny,
Yeah. John Ninos. Yeah, college friend.
He was.
Oh, dude.
That video you showed me.
That I wish I had so much more video of him.
Do you still have that one?
Yes, I do. Yes, it's still on my Instagram actually. Yeah, it's in my highlights. You can go and see it.
Didn't he say something really funny before it?
Yeah.
Or what was the? Just tell the story.
We're about to break the land speed record.
Yeah.
Because we were driving back from sushi because we had all gone out as a whole crew, went out to sushi, and there was like a bunch of other things that I got on camera and stuff of that day, but this was just the best one. So like we drove past on our way back, like one of these like speed trap things where like it's just a sign that shows your speed as you go past it. You're like, oh no. Yeah. We got to do this. So we all pulled over, and then Johnny and Ben wanted to see how fast they could clock a run on it. And so
what did he clock? Did it even register?
I'd have to look back at the video, but yeah, it did.
But dude, that dude was so. You showed me a
I think it
handful of
says
videos.
9 miles an hour. Yeah. This is him.
Oh, he found it?
Yeah, I found it.
Johnny.
Let me see it. Oh, yeah.
That was me yelling, "Let's go, Johnny."
He's like,
yeah.
10.
Dude.
Or it was 10 miles an hour. He got 10 miles
Now
an hour.
that's funny. I don't care who you are. That was funny.
Johnny the Greek is the funniest person I've ever met in my life.
We got to get him on here.
Dude, he lives in Long Island still, and I haven't really talked to him much. I've tried to talk to that whole friend group here and there, but they're like, Johnny especially, because we actually bonded a lot over the last 2 years of college.
Yeah.
He kind of started off as just kind of a goof. But he, as things went on, he was like getting serious about life. He was still just the same goof as he always was.
Okay.
But he took his classwork seriously. And so we would study a lot together because he was really trying to get everything like down.
Okay.
He's smart what he wants to be. Like, very smart. And so like we just did a lot of work together, pulled a lot of all-nighters together, we scheduled our classes so that we were in like the same courses, like at the same semesters so that we could help each other and stuff.
Yes.
And so like we spent a lot of time together, and he's one of the connections of friends that I feel the worst about, that like I don't get to see him anymore.
Yeah.
Because he's just him, and then another one from college. His name's Kendrick Kusa. And both of them just really good friends, really good people, and I don't get to hear anything from them really anymore.
You should just text him.
I do every so often.
Yeah.
But what I was saying is like Johnny, he's just like, you got to be there in person with him.
I want to be.
Yeah, but he just doesn't communicate over anything online very much. He's just like,
I got you. Yeah.
Like he's really hard to get a hold of.
Yeah,
because he's not that person.
He just only talks to the people he sees every day on a daily basis.
Pretty much. But when you're one of those people, it's just life is a riot.
Yeah,
it's amazing.
I wonder if he's still the same.
I would hope so. I would think so.
Do you know what he's doing?
No. Last I knew, he was doing cardiac rehab stuff. So I'm pretty sure he got into a cardiac rehab clinic, and then he was going to be taking his master's because they would cover it. So I'm pretty sure.
Do you know if he has kids or anything?
I don't believe so.
No.
No.
It's weird how as you get older, because you're 25, so you're reaching that point now where you just don't have contact with anybody anymore.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I'm old, so that's been long gone for me. Oh God, my 20-year reunions this year. I saw a thing on Facebook about it.
Yes,
dude.
Did they say where it's at?
I'm sure it did, but I didn't look at it. I just saw
restaurant you've probably been to.
I saw it. It wasn't helping with this midlife crisis. I'm just wrapping up that I'm trying to like get out of completely now, but then I saw that and I'm like, oh,
Like, hey, do you hate your life and feel like shit?
20
Come to our class reunion.
20-year reunion.
That's wild, man.
Yeah.
That's a minute.
I don't even know how anyone would get a hold of me to let me know that that's happening. Even
Oh, you just lost
Instagram,
contact.
man. What do you mean? They'll find you on Instagram now.
maybe. So
They'll find you somewhere. They always find
somehow,
you.
yeah,
Yeah.
somehow.
With
But
social
I'm
media.
not even on Facebook. Like, so my mom has.
Mom
to,
is. They'll
yeah.
find your mom.
Oh,
Your
there-
mom will see the
there you
reunion.
go.
My mom
That's
let me know.
how.
Yeah.
Hey, when's she moving here?
Yeah, she's planning to move down here in the summer this year. I think August. Could be wrong.
Okay.
Yeah, but she was going to be coming down in a month or so, but she just couldn't swing it financially, unfortunately. She was going to bring my sister and my brother too, but that's kind of fallen through. So yeah, but she's going to come down. She's going to get a place set up, and then she's going to get everything down here that she can.
Let's talk about what's been going on in your life. People think that we see each other all the time, but we don't.
No, I haven't seen you since the last time we recorded a podcast.
Really?
I haven't seen any of you guys since then.
That's right.
So what have you been doing?
Well, I took a extended rest period.
When was
off
the last time you
training.
took one? That long ago?
I would say that when I broke my thumb 2 years ago.
Oh,
So it's
yeah.
been pretty much 2 years since you've taken a rest, like an actual rest.
Yeah, like a long
Dude,
period of
I
time.
want to know what's weird to think about is doesn't that seem like I forgot that happened, but
Yeah.
that wasn't that long ago.
I didn't
but,
forget. I
but
can
when
look at it.
yeah, I know. Trust me, every injury I've had, you
Yeah.
never forget, right? Because
Yeah.
nothing ever feels the same after it's.
It's April 22nd, 2021.
Damn.
So it's been over 2 years ago, but it's like that was over 2 years ago, which is a long time, so long that I forgot that it happened. But when you bring it up, I remember that night
Yeah.
that it happened,
Yep.
and
Never
that
seen the
famous
video of it.
Yeah.
that famous
video.
dude that
Dude.
famous picture of you in the just sitting
just
there, just
holding it.
completely disheveled.
Dude.
It looked like an Animal Pack ad.
In black and white.
And that fake Instagram that was made of you, that was like the
Yeah.
main post, like the first post, like out of all pictures.
Yeah. Yeah. That should have alerted everyone. And it did. Like everyone that saw it was like, this is not real. Like, why would that be the first one that goes up?
Yeah.
That's funny.
Never told that story on here.
No. But I can. So
Yeah, it's not long.
2 years ago, I was living here already, but I was in prep, and I was having a really late night pull session. It was probably like 9 or something like that at night by the time that this happened. So I was getting in there at like 8.
Yeah, that was bad. We'd stay up all night.
Yep. So I was training pull late. There was like 3 people in the gym. It was like me and 2 other people. So I got lucky with who was there, honestly, because I would not have been nearly as okay if I didn't have like one specific good Samaritan that was in.
You ever see
gym.
that guy anymore, by the way?
I've seen him a couple of times, but he is always there late.
Yeah.
Like if he shows up, he's late.
Yeah.
And so I've seen him when I've been in there at those times, but never at any other time.
Yeah.
And when I have seen him, I've just been like,
Yeah.
hey, dude, like forever grateful.
Yeah.
It's like, like he really did me a solid. So,
Yeah.
but sorry for the clack of the can. I won't do it again. I promise. Anyone listening, they've hated me from day one because I fidget. So, but I was in there training pole, and I was having a really shitty session, and I was on the reverse pec deck, the Arsenal pec deck, doing rear delt flies, and I had the full stack on it, and I did my whole set, and none of it felt right. I couldn't get it to really connect at all. I was just like, I'm just moving this, and I just got so angry because the whole session was like that. None of my movements felt right. I couldn't get anything to hit what it was supposed to, and it was weak, and I was like, oh, my God, this is the worst. And so I got the last rep up, and I just had like a spark of rage. Like it all just hit the tipping point, and with the weight of the full stack, and then me whipping the handles together with one hand on, because I'm on the neutral handles, I have one hand with my thumb wrapped around the handle like I should, and then the other one with my thumb on the inside of the handle, my right thumb.
Yeah.
And so I throw the handles together, and with the full weight and all of my anger, crashed it together and popped my thumb like a grape.
Which, by the way, the next day I went in there. I don't know if I ever told you this, and I was like trying to get the things to touch.
Yeah.
You cannot get them to touch.
I know.
So
I whipped it.
yeah, I'm like, how the hell did he crush him? It's not even like, I mean, they're a few inches apart.
Yep.
And they stop.
Yep.
So you had to, yeah.
I have the video, so there's.
I know, I watched it. Yeah.
I know because
Yeah.
Jansen also
Yeah.
didn't believe me. He was like, I remember you
Same
telling me
thing,
that
yeah.
because a whole bunch of you guys were.
Yeah,
just
we were looking
at
at it like,
this is impossible, and I'm like,
I'm like, well, I saw his thumb. So it definitely, it definitely exploded.
The thumb is real,
Yeah.
and the video is here. It
Yeah, I
happened.
saw the video and I saw the thumb, so it happened. But it's like one of those things you try to do it.
So it was made to not do that, which is
Yeah.
good. But
You managed to do that.
yeah. So when I went into the hospital, because without skipping over that part of the story with the Good Samaritan, like as soon as I did it, it was immediate because it's not an exaggeration. It popped like a grape.
Yeah.
Like that's what the doctors told me afterwards too. Is like pretty much it was like a crushed tomato, is what I had. That was it. From the middle knuckle down was just a crushed tomato. Mm-hmm. And so when I crushed it, and you can see it on the video, and anyone that wants to look at it, just scroll far enough on my Instagram, you'll find it. And as soon as I did that, screaming profanities, obviously, and just like rolled to the ground because it was just squirting blood everywhere, and I had complete disbelief that just actually
You're
happened.
in shock, but
I was in shock, but not enough of shock.
You still felt it and you knew what was going on, yeah.
Yeah, not enough of a shock for me to be like
Feel
dazed.
nothing, yeah.
I was just like, oh my God, I can't, like, I'm looking at the reality of like my thumb is gone.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
And had the immediate realization, like, I may never have the end of my thumb again.
You could hear that in the video when you come to that, because at first you were like, oh, you're like, ah, and you're cussing, and then you go, there's a part where you go, oh my God.
Yeah.
That's when you realize that, I think. Yeah.
Yep, that is, because I realized, because of the way that it happened, because it wasn't just like it just punctured or whatever, or just cracked. It's like, it was gone.
Yeah.
Like the top end was still there, but it was only there because my thumbnail was driven into the joint.
I can't believe you have your nail, but let me see your nail. I cannot believe it looks that good, because I crushed my bright big toe with the machine once that I was moving at my gym. Crushed it. Nothing like that happened, but it is my nail. It looks terrible. It doesn't look normal.
Yep. So what happened was it got crushed like a pancake, but then the nail actually got driven into the joint backwards. And so the nail bed wasn't totally destroyed.
Oh, that's what saved you.
Yeah, so the nail was still, because the nail wasn't totally crushed either. It was still mostly intact.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, so it transmitted the force through the rest of it. So it's almost like a shotgun shell. Like you tap the back end of it, the rest of it blew out the front, but it's still there.
Yes.
That's pretty much what it was. So the nail was driven into the joint. The joint still luckily survived, even though the bone was pretty much gone except for like the base of it, and it cracked into this side of the joint but didn't cross.
So in all actuality, you got pretty lucky.
I got the most lucky.
Things are really, at that point is when you should have been like, things are really looking up for me.
Yeah, it was very lucky. Like I did the most damage that could have possibly been done to it without it being like life-changing forever, that I would never just have that part of my thumb anymore.
Yeah, I never really thought about it like that. You just think stuff like that happens. You're like, oh my God, this is terrible. But when you explain why that really could have been much worse.
Yeah, it could have been way worse.
Yeah.
So I got really lucky, but yeah, it just...
So now you're just going to start with the glass half full attitude, Nick. Positivity.
Right, from 2 years ago. I'll readjust.
Yeah, readjust.
But I wish I could have gotten a couple more pictures, because Kat had taken pictures of it at the time, but didn't get it from the angle that showed it the worst, because I didn't even want to see it.
Yeah.
Because I would looked at it and I was like, oh my God. It was like, if I looked at the bottom of it, it was gone. It was just, I could see like the flesh was torn apart.
I know.
And there was the base of the bone was there, but that's nothing else.
Yeah, that's the picture you sent me, and I was on the couch. I remember what I was doing when I was eating Culver's.
Typical.
On the couch. I don't remember what I was watching, some show, eating Culver's, and then you told me that happened, and then I got the pictures, and then I wasn't eating Culver's.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't continue eating Culver's.
I think I had my, because I'll come home and eat the meal part of it, and I put my concrete mixer in the freezer because that's the problem when you go get ice cream. By the time you get home, it's like half melted, right? Yep. So then you got to refreeze it just enough. I had done that, but then I saw that and I didn't go get the ice cream again.
Yeah.
So that's all. It's okay. So you've been resting. That
was the whole aside because that was the last time I took a long period of rest. And for that, I was still
training. Yeah.
I wasn't for a while. I stopped training for 3 weeks after, because that night when it got blown up, and that I'll give the Good Samaritan his due. Like, he saw me, walked over, got me to calm down, then brought me over to the water fountain and like had me like wash over and everything, and kept me chill, and then got me to call Kat so that I could get her to come and bring me to the hospital.
Yep.
And so that all happened, and then the doctors, when they looked at it, they were like, "Oh, geez." It's like, okay.
Yeah, I'm looking at the X-ray of that, like,
blown to bits,
dude.
Yeah,
like it looked like when you make the parallels to fruit.
Yeah,
with that thumb, that's literally what.
It almost looks
like the
like
picture you got before Culver.
Yeah, it almost looks like
he got, because that.
Oh, I got the inside.
Yeah, he got the real what the thumb looked like.
Yeah, the inside.
Holy crap!
Yeah.
Oh, there's the infamous video.
Yeah,
but that X-ray looks like it's like a outer space project, like something like
he blew up a meteor or something.
Yeah, it looks like it blew up a meteor or something. That's
it's just dust.
Like.
Yeah. But the doctors were like, "Whoa, dude! Like, you got so lucky because you destroyed this, but you're gonna be okay."
Yeah,
and they reconstructed it that night, and so it was just enough because it was just mush, but the base was still there. So, and since the nail was intact, they just pulled this is the most gruesome part of it. They pulled the nail out completely so that they could do the reconstruction of the nail bed so that I could still have a nail when it fully healed. So they had to rip it out. They used pliers to do that. So they ripped it up and then pulled it out.
Oh my God.
Yep. And then they sewed all of that back together. And then they took that same nail and shoved it back in with those pliers into the nail bed again.
And you were awake. They just numbed it.
Mm-hmm. I was awake. And the worst part was them putting all of the injections into my hand and then directly into it, like into the base of the thumb, like all these directions everywhere, directly into the bed.
Yeah, I wouldn't like that.
Did they say just a little pinch?
Oh,
just
no. They told me, like, this is going to hurt. Because I watched it too. Like, they put it like directly in, and I'm like, oh.
Jeez.
Yeah.
So I just told that the most pain I ever felt was when my brother's friend kicked me in the balls. Is that the most pain you ever felt? That's not the most pain I ever felt. The most pain I ever felt is when I had that ablation done. My heart was on fire.
Yeah, that wasn't the most pain I ever felt. The most pain I ever felt was when I got appendicitis when I was a kid.
Oh yeah, I've heard that hurts really bad.
I was like hallucinating. That's how my mom actually knew to take me to the hospital.
I don't think I knew that happened to you.
Yeah. That happened to me when I was really young. So I was like 10 or 11, and I had been dealing with it all day. It was happening over the course of the day, but my mom just told me, like, it's just a stomach ache.
Just a stomach ache,
yeah. Because I would come back home because I was playing with my neighbors, like my backyard's neighbors that were just across the property behind us.
Yeah.
And I'd come home and be like, I don't feel right. My stomach really hurts. It's probably just a stomach ache. You're fine. Just, you could stay home or you just go back out there. Don't worry about it. And then, like, when I went to bed, like every, 20 minutes, half hour, whatever it was, I would come out to my parents and be like, I don't feel right. Like, this isn't good. I'm like, okay. And they just kind of brushed me off until, like, I came out and I was not there. I was just like,
probably white as a ghost too.
Probably. But then my mom called my pediatrician, like, it was late at night. I don't even remember what time it was, but called him and he was like, okay, yeah, get him, go now. So she brought me, and then when I got there, it was shortly after we got there, like, I went, like, I seized, like, I was gone. As soon as I was on the examining table, I believe, I'd seized up, and I was just, like, completely out, because the pain got me to the point where I had a seizure.
Like, you were actually unconscious?
Yeah. I had a seizure from the pain. So, like, that was right as soon as I got in there. So it was.
So yeah, I mean, where you're going, I see where you're going with this. I mean, people die from that.
Yeah. So that was the most pain I ever felt.
Yeah.
Yeah. It brought me to a whole other place where I couldn't consciously experience it anymore because it was just too much.
Yep. Have you ever had? What's the most pain you ever had? He's like, I was taking a shit the other day after meal 4.
This hemorrhoid popped out and said, hey, get back in there, you asshole. The most pain I've ever been in, physical, not emotional, correct?
Physical, yeah.
Physical.
Emotional doesn't count.
I think it was when I tore my MCL playing football. And it was the dumbest. It wasn't hardcore. I wasn't like, man, I was making a game saving. Nope. Ball was away. I was a defensive end. And I'm just like walking. And then this
Fell into the side of your leg from the outside, right?
fat kid tripped on his shoelace and fell into my knee.
Yeah.
And I heard this
Pop.
And then I remember laying on the ground.
But it's really the worst pain, like for a couple seconds, then you don't feel anything, right?
Well, I didn't feel anything right away, but my heel or my hamstring recoiled, so my heel was up on my buttocks. And then
Buttocks?
my buttocks.
Your buttocks?
My gluteus maximus. And I remember my Jimbo came running out because he was there. And he looks at me and he goes, well, just bite down your mouth guard real quick. And I was like, what? He goes, just bite down your mouth guard real quick. And as soon as I bit, he took my heel and straightened my leg out. And that's when it just hit me like, I can't.
Yeah.
Like I just started, like everything felt like it was on fire, but I've never felt that pain because he said it was like opening up a bear trap because that hamstring recoiled so hard. Oh my God. And then when he straightened it out, that's when the pain set in.
No, you tore your. Did you have to have it reconnected?
No, that's where the problem came in. They said it wasn't fully torn.
It was partially torn.
So I still played that season. I just had a knee.
Just wore the brace, yeah.
Well, I was also on painkillers, so I would be like at a play and I'd be like,
I sprained mine.
I can't play you.
Yeah, I wore a knee brace too my senior year because I sprained mine. Similar thing. A guy fell into the side.
Yeah, and it just.
Yeah.
But that's, I don't think, besides that, as far as like lifting or anything like that.
Is that the only injury you ever had? In football? Let me follow. In football?
In football, no. I mean, when you talk about concussions, I had bursitis. I had a bruised muscle.
I don't even know how many concussions I had.
It was probably way more than, yeah.
Probably a lot.
Yeah.
But like, they're not serious ones. Like, there's ones that you just play with every single game. Like, you're gonna get hurt.
When you were in high school, though, people talked about him, though.
Yeah.
When we were in high school,
You
nobody
didn't say anything.
Nobody talked about it.
Well, the thing is, like, my generation is when they started doing the more rigorous testing and everything, but everyone knew, like, if you
so
get tested,
you
you're
still
done.
wouldn't talk about it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You
so
knew
you're
how to
like,
get out
So
of
that
it.
culture almost creates you not to talk about it.
Yep.
Even more.
Yep. I knew a lot of kids that really should have said something because they definitely did.
Yeah.
But then they just wouldn't because they would get tested and they'd sit out the whole season.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of them had to do that because they had it seen.
Yeah. So anyways,
Yeah.
why were you why have you been resting?
Yeah. Yeah.
Look at me. I'm the one.
You're remembering.
Yeah. So I took about 20 days away from training because I just went into the gym, just that last session that I did, and it was a leg day. I did adductors, like my normal thing. I just didn't feel right anyway. I was just like tired, normal. But I did my first sets and I was like, I was kind of weak. I was like, whatever, it is what it is. I move on to stiff legs.
He was only doing the full stack. He didn't have the gym pin.
Son of a bitch, you.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is legitimate. Yeah.
Well, yeah. Like if I don't even think like I can use the gym pin, like, oh,
Bad
a bad day.
It's a bad day. Which isn't it interesting how our mood? Like I just said that. Was that today? I'm like, my mood is totally dependent upon how training is
That
going.
was yesterday.
In
Yeah.
your like
You did say
progress that you're making. If your training is bad and you're not making progress, don't talk. It's like the worst mood ever.
yeah.
I mean, obviously not now. I mean, when I was
Yeah.
in it. But
Yeah.
anyways, yeah. So
It started with that, and then I went to do stiff legs, and up like recently, my good sets on stiff legs, I was getting up to actually getting 7 plates,
yeah, same.
but but I wasn't getting it for as good of a set as I wanted it to be because I was having like digestive issues.
Yep, you're having that.
Yeah, I was having like I just couldn't digest properly before the sessions, so I was just every time I got into a packed brace for either a hack squat, at the time it was still I had barbell squats in, so I was trying to make that work, but I had to pull that out. But that hack squats, anything that I actually had to brace for, I would just like get like GERD and start burping like uncontrollably. So like any brace that I could hold just died. as soon as I hit a certain point in a set. So I'd get like 2 or 3 reps in and it would just be over. Like, okay. But I had the
Did you
strength.
buy your GI map yet?
No. Send me the link for it. I'll do it. I'll do it before I leave here.
I mean, dude, the thing is like I already know what I'm going to see. Let's just assume that you have everything because you probably do, man. So
Likely,
it's like we may as well just go through with the protocol.
Likely.
But-
Yeah.
And take a bunch of Pepsi. You need to take. Have you been taking betaine HCl?
I actually haven't since like the digestive issues seemed to go away. So I've been pretty good.
Did I tell you to do the baking soda test?
You did, but I ended up not having to after you told me.
Okay.
Yeah, because everything started to go back to normal.
Okay.
So I haven't had any issues like that since, but that's also a side, get back to this, is that I was up to like 6.5 plates, 7, and my down sets were starting to become 6 plates. And I couldn't get 4 plates to leave the ground, like at all.
Well, you didn't tell me that.
Yeah, that was the day that I called it, and I was like,
You mean you can do 4 plates for 1?
No, I couldn't get it to leave the ground.
Holy crap.
Okay, you never told me that.
Yeah. So I got to that point, like that's severe.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't turn on at all. So I had nothing. I was like, this is horrible. So I went and did a couple of sets of ham curls and did a half-ass set of leg extension and I left. It's like I'm taking a deload. And the deload was like, okay, well, the purpose of the deload is so you feel better. I was like, I don't feel better. It was a week and I was like, I don't feel better. A week and a half. I don't feel better. 2 weeks.
Well, when you say deload, you were still going to the gym or you just stopped going? Yeah.
Done.
So when I say deload, that's what I say too. People are like, what are you thinking deloads? I'm like, don't go to the gym.
Yeah, it depends because me with my own clients, it's a little bit different person to person. I have a protocol.
Yeah, I think it depends on the person too. I just say like, are you the type of person if you don't go, it's gonna cause you more stress? If the answer to that's yes, then it's like, okay, let's go, but half-ass it.
So my typical protocol for somebody is if I don't know their major preferences yet, or they just it works for them after trying it once, I tend to have them take 3 to 4 days off completely. Just don't go in, don't do anything.
Yeah.
Depending on what phase they're in, if they're in an off season or they're cutting.
Yeah, that's definitely going to matter. Yeah.
Yeah. It depends on what it's going to be, but I'll use just an off season example because it makes it a little bit easier because it's not constrained by the actual goal of the time too much. Kind of like free form, normal scenario, take 3 to 4 days completely off. And that's pretty much a non-negotiable just because you're not going to feel better going back into the gym and another day.
Yeah, people be like, oh, I'll take a day off.
Right. That's not, if you're already feeling that bad, it's not.
You're supposed to already do that. Yeah.
Yeah, you're not going to feel that much better because I already typically have people, unless they're constrained by a 7-day week structure for their training, they have like a 2-on, 1-off most of the time.
Most of the time, yeah.
And then in some portions of their training cycle, they'll have a third day, which is usually a very low impact day. It's like an arm and delt day.
Yeah.
So I never have 3 big sessions next to each other unless the person is kind of early in their development and they just don't catch fatigue like that because they're also not that accurate and the amount of load that they can move isn't that high either, so they can just keep going.
Yep.
So I'll have them take 3 to 4 days completely off, and then I'll have them do 1-on, 1-off for 3 sessions usually. So it ends up being a week or a little bit more than a week.
The 1-on, are you...
In that 1-on session, I would drop, depending on where their volume is, kind of changes things. But I set a rule. Anything that's over 2 sets is now 2 sets. Any of the big major movements, like the primary movement of the day,
to 1 set.
Move that to 1 set. Or we keep them in as 2 sets, but we have you do deloaded weights, which is just going to be like your down set. Do down set, and you have an RAR set up for like 3+.
Yeah.
And usually to make that easier for people because they don't usually know how to gauge that very well. So like an RIR of 2 is even sketchy for most people. Tell them a 0 or a 1. They can kind of figure that out.
That's the problem I have with RIR, yeah.
Yeah.
So to interpretation, it's like...
Yep. Yeah. But instead, what I just say is you cut the set as soon as your concentric speed starts to slow.
Yeah.
As soon as you hit that point, stop.
Yeah. You find that works? People understand that?
Yeah. Yeah, because they can feel that.
I was gonna I want to continue this, but parking lot something. I wanted to ask you how you teach somebody something in regards to training. So don't let me forget that.
Okay. All right.
At some point.
Okay. So that's typically the way that I have people deload And then if they're somebody that's like, they're a coach like we are, and they're already like mentally overloaded completely, it's like, it's easier to just take 5 days off. Like, just don't go, don't worry about going, don't do anything related to the gym. So you can just take care of your stuff outside of it, and that's just your focus. Yeah. Okay, and I also, because there's a debate back and forth, and I should probably talk about this since we're on a podcast, not just the three of us talking. There's debate between whether a deload should be a deload or a devolume.
Okay.
It's like, because volume is the driver of fatigue. It's like, okay, I understand it. I know, yeah. I know, but it's true. It's true. But the part that I see get missed most of the time, and the reason why I do my deloads the way I do them, like specifically with the way I set up sessions, so I have their RIR pulled way back. Then I have them reduce the volume, so that covers the volume thing. And then depending on how fatigue resilient they are and how big the loads they typically move are, if they're pretty advanced and they lift pretty big things, I would end up pulling their biggest movements too. So like, just remove them.
Just remove them completely out.
Yeah. If they're somebody that's like really strong, pull them.
That makes sense.
Because there's what gets missed with like the devolume thing is like, because people have like caught onto this trend where it's devolume because volume is the thing that drives fatigue, but it's like, okay, but what else is the problem here? It's not just the amount of volume you're doing. So you're still going to failure on those sets, are still going to be accumulating a little bit more fatigue. Yes. So you pull the RIR too, but then they keep their loading high. It's like, okay, for some that might work, but if you're somebody that like you're actually strong, you need to turn up to be able to move a single rep of those loads, even for a down set. Mm-hmm. So like, I'll think of myself, if I'm doing a deloaded session, and I'll call it, let's see, if I were to do a deloaded leg session, and I have back squats in, because this makes it an easy example to use. Like, I still have that in volume style. Okay, am I still going to load up 7 plates and do a set, but call it 2 to 4 reps early, and then say that that's not going to still impact me? No,
it makes no sense. It's
makes no sense.
Thank you. I didn't realize that people argue. I didn't realize that argument existed.
Yeah, it does. So like that, because there's like a lot of, obviously, like everything, like every single one of our methods gets shifted over time.
Yeah,
but like, because of the finding that volume is the driver of fatigue primarily, that's kind of taken it to that level. And so you would keep your loading, but then you would drop the volume really low. It's like, if you have to turn up for all of those things, like, we know that the nervous system, whether or not you want to talk about peripheral or central nervous system fatigue, don't care. Irrelevant, because it's a hormonal thing. Mm-hmm. It's a hormone thing. If you're overdriven throughout your training cycle to the point that you can't even like really pick it up anymore, it's not just your muscles are tired.
Correct.
That's not it. If it was just your muscles are tired, then yeah, you lower the volume. Maybe you can keep the loading as it is and you'd be fine. Mm-hmm. But that's not the only system that's getting trained and starting to go into like a depressed state as a result of the overall stress load. Because of that, you have to respect the other systems. And if you have to like rely on that turning up so that you can be as accurate as you need to be and as strong as you need to be just to lift the loads that are normal with the lesser volume anyways, you're still accumulating too much fatigue for you to fully recover.
Yeah, which we could label as adrenal fatigue.
Yes, which is also which is also
doesn't exist. But
people believe that doesn't exist. It's like,
okay,
yeah, right. So like, look at a Dutch test on any person that exists at this point in time.
Yeah,
like you're gonna figure out that exists.
Yeah,
it's just not. Yeah. We've talked about this, and that's why
I said that.
Yeah, because that's come up pretty frequently recently with a couple of my clients, actually.
Really?
Yeah, there's been 2 of them specifically that come directly to mind. The one of them that I asked for your second opinion on, and another one that I went directly to Austin Stout. Shout out Austin Stout, the smartest person in functional med, in bodybuilding ever.
It's not even close.
Not a competition. The dude's the best.
Yeah.
So anyone that has any sort of problem that goes over the head of your own coach, or you're a coach and you don't understand something, go right to him, because he knows so much that he'll just make you feel like an idiot. Doesn't matter how smart you are.
Yes.
So
he does it to me every day.
Yep, but he is also an extremely nice person, easy to get along with.
And he's a real OG bodybuilder at heart too, which is the cool part, man.
Yeah.
You know, it's like the cool thing about him is like he understands the stuff so well that he's just kind of like, you know, it's like I send him my gym. He's like, you start, he knows when you need to, that's what he said. He's like, you look at enough of this stuff, you know when you need to panic and when not to. It's just like, he's seen enough of it that it's so simple to him.
Yep.
And he doesn't really get involved with arguing back and forth with people. He knows what he knows and he sticks to it. And he's just like, dude, he trains in a barn in his pajamas.
I know.
Like,
I was just going to ask, is this gym on his property? Is that?
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. Yeah.
no air, no heat, just lets it fucking rip.
Just does the thing.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, so shout out to Austin
Yeah.
for like the 4th time since this first airing of the show.
Yeah.
Because we can't keep his name out of our mouths.
No.
He's just too good.
Yeah.
But 2 people on my roster that I've had those similar issues with. One of them that is now taking also an extended period of time away from training at this point. So he's taking a really long time because he's had like years, because he had legit overtraining syndrome a while back. And then since that point, he's just been super like sensitive to training volumes. Like to the point where like dieting him, even pushing up his steps would just wreck him. And that wasn't even above 10K. It was like bringing him from not tracking it to like 6K. And it was like, dude.
Okay, so here's my question. Is this guy a stress head as well?
A little bit, yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. So, and the other individual.
And did you ever talk to the other guy about that stuff? About
to a degree.
psychological?
To a degree. But I'm also only the other one's training coach. So he has another person that handles all the other stuff. So I went out of my way to go and get on a call with Austin with him to go and talk through everything.
Okay.
Yep, to go and get
you brought Austin on a call with him.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, not the one that we talked about.
Yeah, the other guy, yeah.
Yeah, the other guy. And I'm only bringing the 2 of them up, not by name. Bringing the 2 of them up because this has happened these 2 times, and it's been like the same things. And I see it now in a lot more people. It's like, like a lot of people are going through the same thing, and I'm seeing the same signs on blood work that would tell me like,
yep. Now you're seeing it, yeah.
Yep. It's like, okay. And it's not like, I really don't believe it's even training style. It's not like, it's nothing that I can pinpoint other
It's
than
as simple as this, Nick. People are spending too much time in fight or flight all the time.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that, eventually what ends up happening is everything just gets burnt out. You're not producing anything anymore. That turn it on ability, it takes what? Cortisol.
Yep.
If you're not making any, you're a zombie.
Yep.
And that's what complete adrenal burnout would be. Fatigue would be, I think, the way that I interpret it, fatigue is you're just running a low cortisol pattern all the time, or what's called your cortisol in the waking response could be off. Yep. We looked at that with that guy. It actually goes down. It should go up within 60 minutes of waking, 60 minutes of waking. It should go up, and sometimes people's actually go down, and then it just keeps getting lower. You're not going to feel good. Yep. Which that's probably what yours looks like.
I'm pretty positive it just doesn't even come up.
Yours is probably doesn't. Yours probably is. It's probably. I mean, Austin, I haven't seen one yet, but he's told me that you'll see just a flat line. I mean, you can die for that's a is that Turner syndrome or Cushing's? It's a thing where if you don't produce cortisol,
I don't know. Look it up.
You die, but you can't. I mean, that's extreme, obviously, but. Just to the point is you do not feel good. Yep. So, anyway, continue. Yep. Sorry.
So we're only bringing this up anyway because I'm starting to see this, and it is definitely in the people that are a little bit more psychologically reactive, so that they are in that psychological fight or flight a lot, and then actually a lot of the people that at one point in time were totally fine, but they were the ones that like took the most solace in training. Yep. Because they just buried themselves with it. And that's like, so both of them are like this, and just like me.
They send it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's actually for the one of them, the other one that I talked with Austin about. that's something that we have struggled with him dieting, is that he can't really get far into a diet because he just crumbles. And it doesn't go anywhere no matter what you do, because he can't withstand it anymore. And we found out last year as we were going through it that like just going way too hard.
Yeah, but who else does that sound like?
Me.
Exactly.
Yeah, me.
When you try to diet.
Yeah.
And things get turned up. Yeah.
Yep. And now it's me in off season when it shouldn't be.
So it's like this stuff is real stuff that
Yeah.
people don't think exists, especially the older people like me. I would have been like, like you just don't go hard enough.
Yeah.
You don't go hard enough.
Yeah.
And I would say for most people, that's probably true.
Yeah. But and that's,
But
when I had this discussion with one of them, because the one that I talked with Austin
yeah,
with, like, he wasn't going to argue. He was like, yeah, okay. And the other one was a little bit more resistant, because it's a little bit more like, well, I've heard that this is totally not a thing. It's like, this has been quote unquote debunked. Like
But it
adrenal insufficiency isn't a thing. It's like, okay, like we're looking at your blood work and your Dutch, and it literally shows this. Like, your cortisol is not doing what it's supposed to. It's not coming up when it's supposed to be at the amount it should be. What would you call
it? Yeah, you got to call it something.
Yeah, what are you going to call it?
That's what we were saying.
Because how do you feel? It's like, you feel like shit. Can you train well? Not really. You got to like really go somewhere in there to get anything out of you. Yeah. Say, okay, so, and then after you do that, how bad do you feel the next day? And then the next day and the next day, and how psychologically can you actually like perform and have clarity during the day? Yep. Do you have brain fog? It's like, do you have all these things that all like people would say it's like, oh, that doesn't happen. Like, it's literally all happening.
Part of
Okay.
Now,
so what do you call it then?
Part of being an elite bodybuilder, those guys don't. That's when people say, like Meadows used to always talk about, it's how good your recovery, how fast can you recovery. Yep. And now I finally understand what that's what he's talking about. The people that I've seen up close and personal that I know, they can turn up like Brett.
Yeah.
Nick Walker, same thing. It's like I was trying to keep up with him, and it's like, dude, it's like they can turn up every single day, all the time, never need days off, because if you're able to do that, that's just giving your body more opportunities to break down tissue, rebuild it, and of course they never miss meals. Yep. So they can have it all the way cranked up all the time. Yep. For 10 years straight.
Dude, like
that's what people don't understand. That's high level bodybuilding. That's having elite genetics.
Yeah. And you bring up Brett, and Brett just blows my mind.
That's what I'm saying.
Brett blows my mind, because like I see how he trains, because he trains at the same time as me.
Yes.
Often. And I'm like, I can understand going there, but like, you do this
every day,
every time. And I had a period where I was doing that, and I can't even imagine doing that now.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God.
I was talking to him today about something just to go along the lines to tie this all together. Yeah. Brett also, though, does not have psychological stress.
Yeah.
He is as solid as it gets, man.
That's beautiful.
He's just, he's solid, bro.
He is, though.
And that plays a part in it. Yeah. Okay. So we'll use Brett as an example. Is he's got up here, but between the temples he's solid. Yeah. You know, I told him today he's tapped in, but he just doesn't even realize what that means.
Yeah.
You know?
He doesn't need to know.
He doesn't. And that's what I said. And he, I don't remember, he said something back. I'm like, dude, you don't need to talk about it. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. Just don't think about it.
Don't think. Yeah. Just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, and then the other guys, it's like they don't have psychological stress for other reasons, because we've talked about this too. They're narcissistic to the max.
Some people, yeah.
Some of them. And if you're narcissistic to the max, you're also strong between here, because nothing's penetrating you.
Right.
You're the fucking man.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm not even using that as a derogatory term. People throw that around as a derogatory term.
Yeah.
I've actually thought about filming a YouTube series of becoming a narcissist. You know, I'm saying that jokingly, but
yeah, it's an interesting thought. Yeah.
It's an interesting thought, right? Just to be a lot of people that are really great at what they do, they're complete narcissists.
Well, you know what? There's some famous internet personalities that have recently gotten thrown in jail, stuff like that. Yeah. Don't say the name.
No, I'm not.
Don't say the name. People will probably know who we're talking about, but like, it's another one of those. It's like, yeah, is it kind of narcissistic, the things that come out of that? Yeah. But if you're going to do anything really well, can you be the super self-reflective kind of like, oh,
can't.
like I gotta be super humble. Like, oh no, I'm not that good. It's like you gotta know you got it.
Yep.
For you to really go that far.
Yep.
And do it all the time.
Every day.
Yeah. You have to.
Yeah.
Or else you just don't.
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying is I kind of admire that. And it's like people being a narcissist definitely can be, considered bad if you use a lot of those traits to harm other people emotionally, because a lot of them, are really, really good at manipulating, right? But is it possible to be a narcissist and be a good person? What is good?
I guess if you're a self-aware narcissist enough that you can
where
recognize-
you're like, listen, I'm a bodybuilder. All I give a shit about is myself, my bodybuilding. I don't want you to interfere with any of my time. Like if you tell people that straight up, I mean, you're being honest.
Yeah.
You're pretty aware.
It's still going to hurt people's feelings, but at the same time,
but you're telling them,
Yeah.
like, you mean nothing to me.
yeah. Oh well, yeah.
Nothing-
If you take it that far, yeah.
Nothing means anything to me. This is all I care about. I'm going to be the best at this, and that's that. It's like,
Yeah.
good for you.
Yeah. Well, that's why the people at the top of anywhere you see more psychopaths, sociopaths, narcissists,
Yeah.
like all of the, what is it? There's a name. It's like a trait B or something like that. I don't know.
Oh, I know what you're saying.
Cluster B.
Cluster B.
There it is. Yeah. Cluster B personality
I'm looking it
disorders.
up right now.
Jamie, cluster B.
Cluster B personality
Disorders.
disorders.
Addison's
Pop right
disease.
up.
Addison's disease was what I was trying to think about. where you don't-
Characterized
where
by
you don't produce.
dramatic, overly emotional, or unpredictable thinking or behavior, they include antisocial personality disorder, borderline personality disorder, histrionic personality disorder, and narcissistic personality disorder.
Yep. Those types are either like they crumble and make it nowhere, or it's a weapon. And it's just they rocket to the top.
Yeah.
Because they have no remorse. They just do whatever they got to do for them to feel good. And for them to feel good, they got to win.
Yeah.
And they win at any cost.
Yeah.
And so that you see the people at the top 1% of anything, they're crazy. Usually.
Absolutely. 100%.
Usually. But
Yeah.
then you have unicorns like Brett Wilkin.
That's what I'm saying. And I'd say Bumstead.
Yeah. And Chris, yeah. And
Yeah.
then there's definitely a handful of other ones.
There's more, but those are just two we see a lot,
And I think that's also unique to bodybuilding to a degree, because you being really good at bodybuilding is kind of divorced from a lot of the other things that would make you like express those things negatively outwardly. It's like this obsession is you being really disciplined on something. That's really what it comes out to be. And then it's more so like the mirror that we have put on us and like, well, the cameras that we have fixed on us in this day and age with like Instagram and all the rest of it, that pulls the more negative parts out of those people. I think otherwise it would just be the old school, like hermits.
Well, you're saying because it's become this, it's become even more surface level. Yeah. Like the guys in the 70s and 80s and in early 90s, it was not. Instagram has become as surface level and materialistic as you could possibly be. And if you don't believe me, it's like you post, deep stuff on there, right? People don't care. They just want to see your body. I said this the other day. They just want to see your body. Nobody's reading anything. It's just you see a picture and you like it.
For the most part, yeah.
That's all it is.
Yep.
I'm not saying that's bad or that's good, but that's just what it is.
Yeah.
And
it's bad. I'll say it's
okay,
bad.
you'll say it's bad.
It's bad. Yeah.
What was the point of that? Bodybuilding has
Yeah, it's a little bit divorced from like if you have those type like cluster B traits, but you're self-aware enough that you know that like, okay, you're doing this and it's expressing itself. You're going to be the best because you care enough about yourself that you're going to win. So what you have to do to win in this is it's not like you being like cluster B and a banker.
Yeah.
It's like you're going to like ruin people's lives
Right.
to get up.
Right.
Like bodybuilding, what are you going to do? It's like, I'm going to eat this meal harder than you.
Yeah. I'm going to take
so
care
hard.
I'm going to take care of myself more. Yeah. than
Right.
You. Yeah.
Right. So like that's it. It's like,
Right.
okay, so
Yeah.
how is that going to be that destructive? If you're self-aware enough that those cluster B personality traits don't hurt interpersonal relationships and stuff like that, and you can think clearly enough that you're not just destroying everything around you for that thing, then it's going to be a decent thing for you.
Yeah.
So I would say that like the top ranking in bodybuilding, we have some obviously that are going to be like really off the wall and probably not really good people. but I think we have a higher representation of good people in the top of bodybuilding with some of those like personality disorder types than we do in like a lot of other pockets, even other sports, like other sports that are like big money sports.
Yes.
You're probably going to see more of that because they're a little bit more in the real public eye. It's not like this niche thing and everything is really high stakes. So
yes, I totally understand. And that's also a thing that bodybuilding's different because you're literally choosing to live. You hear people say, it's a lifestyle, not a sport. It's a lifestyle. Right. I hate that. But it is. I mean, you're literally choosing a monk life. It's a monk life mentality lifestyle to be really, to be as good as you possibly can.
Yeah.
Which bodybuilding, there's parallels between bodybuilding and life in general. It's like life is already hard enough. It's already suffering. And then we're choosing to make it even harder and suffer even more in ways that, you know, people in the modern Western world just generally don't. But it's like, but what's cool about bodybuilding is if you're able to control, if we're thrown in this world and everything around us that gives us pleasure can become vices, right? I would say one of the biggest vices that we have to face is food.
Yeah.
If you're able to take that away from yourself, you know, it's almost like a spiritual cleansing that we go through.
Because you voluntarily do it too.
You're doing it voluntarily, and
no
it's like
one's forcing you
you're
to
like,
do that.
okay, the realization I've come to is the reason I love bodybuilding is because that's a way that I am able, that all of us probably, the people that look at it and the way that you're saying the people that look at it is I can look at the guy in the mirror and trust myself. It's conquering your inner bitch.
Yep.
I stole that from Coder.
It's a good line, Coder.
Yeah. He says a lot. Every time I talk to him, I'm like writing it down.
Yeah, he's got a lot of good
I'm gonna
lines.
steal him and but it's conquering your inner bitch, man, and that's like what bodybuilding is. And it's like, but people on Instagram, most are not viewing it like that.
Yeah, and actually, I think it's at some point, for better or worse, I think it's going to probably go full circle.
Yeah, I think so too.
At some point, and because the way that, especially my Instagram and all the social media has like changed in the way that I'm getting like the things that I'm getting fed through my Instagram is changed in the last year in ways that I can't really make sense of. But I feel like it's probably most people are having the same thing where you're just getting like pushed further into like more pedestrian stuff that is just like catches your eye, forces you to watch it type thing. Instead of things you're actually interested in, it pulls you into that type of thing that's just like stupid mindless. And I think most people that are self-aware enough to know that like you don't want to be here. You don't need to be here. This is a waste of time. And the same thing is happening with bodybuilding content, which I'm noticing a lot more because when I'm stuck in trying to watch bodybuilding content through like especially Instagram, seeing everything come through, it's just like everything is so surface. It's the little bits of information because that's how it's put together. It's reels. Everyone's doing reels. So it's okay, you have a quick flashpoint that you see something come across that gets you interested. You never get enough context to make any actual like concrete addition to anything you know.
Yeah.
Even from people that like would have a lot of really awesome things to say. It's more like getting it, and I think this is the way it pulls you in too, that I've come to realize after watching it enough myself. It's like kind of the point of the way that all this goes is it gives you just enough of the lead up context, never gives you the conclusion. So you're just like hanging on the cliff, like you're almost there with something, never shows up. So it's just the next thing. It's like, okay, all right, almost there, almost got something, gone. Because it never gives it to you.
It's like getting blue balled.
Yeah, kind of.
But cognitively.
Kind of.
Cognitively.
And it just
You know what I mean? That's what it sounds like, though.
Yeah.
You're pursuing something that's going to feel or satisfy a curiosity. That's why you watch it in the first place.
Yep.
And it never delivers.
Yep. And it just
it's blue balling.
It just keeps on going.
So how are you saying that it's going to come full circle?
I think the people that are self-aware enough to realize that on their own, whether or not they verbalize it, are going to pull away. And I think people are more and more pulling away from it. And we have like almost every single, I'll talk bodybuilding specifically, people in the bodybuilding space that are somewhere and have something to say are building their own platforms aside from social media. More and more. We had the start of it with like Trained by JP and Joe Bennett. And then like more and more people are continuing to do it. And then like John Jewett has his J3U and it's huge. And like these are starting to become different hubs that aren't just, okay, you just go to this person or this person. It's like everyone has their thing where you can actually get that conclusion that you've been missing because it never hits you. So you just go there now. It's going like the full circle is it used to be you only had that. You know
who tried to be what we're talking about, but ended up just cognitively blue balling everyone. But he tried to like get super deep. Who am I? You know who I'm going to say? Kai.
Oh yeah.
You know, it's like he would do. It's you would try to follow him, but he'd never answer a question or never. But I get what he was trying to do, and I would consider him a tapped in individual. He's pretty. He just doesn't. He's not connecting the dots of whatever point that he was always trying to make. But
maybe I don't know.
Yeah, just another interesting thought that just popped in my head of being cognitively blue balled, but in a different way.
Yeah. So I think it's going to come full circle. So I think most people are getting tired of the social media thing.
Yeah.
Because
you think?
I think so.
Yeah, I know I am.
I'm getting really tired of it too. Like the last podcast I said I was going to start posting again. I'm like,
you haven't?
No, I haven't because I'm like, I just don't. I don't really want to. Yeah, but it's not really even.
But you're not even having to though.
No,
it's from what we were just talking about. So why would you?
No, it's not negatively affected my business or anything.
So,
and so like it almost as if like we're at the point where it's. I don't know. Maybe I can pull this into a world example. It's like we're in the Weimar Republic of social media now.
You're gonna have to explain what that means.
Yeah. So after World War II, when the world was collectively trying to punish Germany, they had a problem with their money. They had what was a short-term government called the Weimar Republic, and at that time, there's some famous political cartoons. Depicting, this is the most famous one, proving my point, where for you to go and get a loaf of bread, you would have a wheelbarrow full of cash. It's like that's kind of what we're doing now with social media. It's like for you to get that one thing sitting in front of you, like you're getting boatloads and boatloads of follows and likes, and everyone's getting their eyes on your thing, but nobody's actually caring. Because it doesn't matter anymore because everyone's there. Everyone has something to say, but everyone's opinion is like cheaper than nothing. It's cheaper than dirt. So it doesn't even matter anymore. The people that already know that you have something to say already know your name.
I see what you're saying.
They already know your name. They know where to go to get it. And then if they care enough, they're going to find you. And so I think it's coming to the point where like it's just so saturated. And there's so many people that actually do have good things to say, but it's the same thing across the board. It's like if you weren't established with that and people knew already and gave you that trust from like a while ago, it's really tough for you to get any sort of followership that actually cares. It's just eyes, and it's not people that actually care.
Yeah.
And so it's like it's a currency that doesn't matter anymore.
Yeah, you're right.
That's a good way to put it.
You're right.
And a currency that doesn't have really much value.
Yeah, it's just got it inflated
because
to the point that it just doesn't even matter. Like the attention has been inflated, and the value is in the dirt.
Yeah, it got driven down.
Another real world example. Me and Jacoby were talking about this when he was over here the other day. Is it's because he lost his Instagram, and he's saying the same thing. He's like, I lost my Instagram. I have no followers, but I'm still getting clients like at the same rate. And he's like, we talked about something. Another coach he knows that just, there's a lot of coaches like this that have hundreds of clients making a killing, and you go to their Instagrams, 4,000 or 5,000 followers.
Yeah.
Happens all the time. So followers do not always equal dollars.
No.
You're right. The likes and the currency don't matter. And it's because of what I just said, is because people are it's just like you see a hot girl, you see a hot guy, you like the picture, it's just, just like, it's a visual pleasure satisfactory button.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean anything.
Yeah. or just an acknowledgement.
Yeah.
Like, it's a worthless token.
It's a worthless token.
It doesn't matter anymore. And so I
It
think
matters to the people that
Are receiving it.
that are receiving it. Some of them.
yeah, some of them. And then to a degree, like, this isn't going to be across the board because there's a lot of people that do care and they do go on there to try and get information from specific people.
Yeah.
They've tailored their feeds for them to get information from those people. So it's not like saying that the entire thing is moot at this point. It's just that the overwhelming majority of it is now just not worth anything more than it was. Yeah. You may get a very, very small percentage that still follow up and will see the content for the first time and attach to it and want something from it, but most of them won't. And so I think, and with the way that social media is going, and it's just like, it is an addiction at this point.
Absolutely.
And it's an addiction for most people.
Just like everything, man. I mean, having a cell phone in itself is an addiction.
Well, they're having lawsuits now. When I was visiting my brother in Milwaukee, I heard on the radio. I thought it was a joke, like a Onion Radio or something. But they're having class action lawsuits now against Instagram for teenage suicide. If your teenager,
really?
Yeah. If your teenager was addicted to Instagram, which I think they base it off of statistical use, they had to find an algorithm somewhere, and your child.
Well, I mean, yeah, your phone keeps track of that.
That's what I
right?
mean. Like, they have a algorithm to prove that there was an addiction related illness to Instagram that caused the demise of their livelihood. This is a huge class action lawsuit now, and I was like, okay, so we're at that point where it's gotten over that brink of, hey, this is an entertainment app to this is
it's a problem.
What you were talking about, way over the top, and people that did have a currency or a value, if you will, are now, it's so diluted or hyperinflated that they're just like, okay, I guess it's not worth anything.
Right.
Or if something goes wrong, they lost their page, or they get, Order 66 or whatever the heck, whatever crap goes on.
Yeah.
It devalues their whole livelihood.
Yeah.
And that's crazy to think about. That's something that insignificant, which that's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
Because it's a digital platform on an app that doesn't have,
Yeah.
but that's not the way other people view it. That's what blows my mind.
But that's a really fresh perspective, which is nice to hear. But at the same time, it's like human beings have the need, like the biological need. It's ingrained in us that we have to have some sort of.
I was just going to say, even being aware of it, knowing that it doesn't matter, it still affects you.
It doesn't help.
I don't care what anybody says. People that just say like that you can. That's just smoke and mirrors, being politically correct and saying all the right things because you don't want to appear weak.
Yeah.
Everyone cares.
Yeah.
Like,
it's ingrained in us.
Yes.
Like,
exactly.
Because back in the day, for most of our history as human beings, if you were not accepted by the crowd around you, you got kicked out and you were having to forage yourself for as long as you could until the wolves got you.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like and it's not like we've evolved in the last 100 years or even the last 20 that we've had a cell phone.
Yeah.
Oh, it has been 20 years.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
Yeah. So we haven't adapted away from this. It's still the same thing. If you got kicked out of the tribe, you're dead.
Yeah.
So there's a dread that is like deeply ingrained in human beings.
Isn't it? It is a biologically.
So what's the more extreme though? If you don't get acceptance from a digital platform versus a real life platform, like if you don't find, you know what I'm saying though, like because I agree
if you don't get acceptance in either one, you're saying.
Well, or which one is the worst of the two evils?
Neither. It doesn't matter because Instagram has become reality for
that's
people,
what I mean though,
for everyone.
I'm just saying this because
people
old.
Yeah,
like, we didn't have this growing
people
up.
literally live their lives on there, and that's what people do now. And it's even when you're aware of it, you still do it.
You still have an urge to
You can say all the things you want and be like, live your life in real life and not on Instagram. Okay, yeah. We're all like,
I care. I care about
still,
everything.
Yeah, everyone cares.
Yeah. Like, I'm not gonna lie about it.
Yeah, the problem is it's merged, like you said. It's merged.
That's what I'm like.
It's now merged.
It's
it is
such
reality.
But it's
weird concept.
Also, that as time has gone on in this direction, it's not like you said. It's not the entertainment app that it once was.
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of everything. It's where our businesses live.
Yeah.
It's where your social presence is with the people that actually care about the same things that we care about.
It's It's replaced the resume.
Yeah, to a degree.
To a degree.
And it's
replaced life.
It's your old photo album.
Everything, literally.
Yep, it's your photo album. It's your phone book for all of your friends.
It's your diary.
For some
people.
Your diary. It's like all encompassing.
Yeah.
And as time has gone on and we've gone further in this direction, people have lost more and more of their social skills, and people are
Without
more and
a doubt.
more atomized.
Yeah.
So you're more like, nobody knows their neighbors. Nobody.
I mean, we know our neighbors.
We know a couple of
Shout out to Ellie. What's
Yeah.
up?
Yeah.
I know mine on either side, but
But I know what you're saying.
yeah, but like
if you
people
meet-
don't do that.
If you meet someone that's Instagram famous,
Yeah.
like what is the probability that they would be super awkward face to face?
Like almost everyone.
That's what I mean.
I am.
Like, well, you're highly intelligent. It's hard for like back me up here. But what I'm saying is, like, if you are someone that appears personable or appears extroverted or appears like they would be
You're
social.
just saying the phenomena of like when you see people on Instagram and you meet them in person and they are not what you saw on
Yes.
Instagram.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's like
That's
being an actor.
in a
It's
short-winded
being an
way,
actor.
yes.
Yeah.
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 Being an actor.
I'd say that's pretty
But
common.
I'm trying to converge this concept with the idea that you guys have, the concept that that's
It's
a
the
reality.
same thing. It's the same exact thing as seeing a celebrity on TV and then being behind closed doors with them.
But for
No, in
Instagram, if
real
someone
life, like,
perceives
it's
that Instagram has reality and they see this person on Instagram, which is their reality, and they meet them in person,
Yeah.
and the axioms get broken because that reality does not. That's what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah. I don't know. I think a lot of people don't ever cross that because they don't have the social skills to even approach that person. when they
That's
see them.
true. But that's what I'm just. It just blows my mind.
I think it's an anxious barrier that they don't break, though, because that's probably something that they already realize without realizing it. Is that I
Oh yeah.
never meet your heroes.
That's like there you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Some people still do, which is awesome.
Yeah, but I know what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are like that.
That's crazy.
And honestly, I am.
Who's your hero?
I don't have any heroes.
No, I'm saying
Yeah. But people that I know.
sarcastically.
Yeah.
But if you like through Instagram, you wouldn't want to meet them, and
Yeah, it's not like I just wouldn't want to meet them, but if I see them,
If
I'm
you
like, that's a person.
yeah,
It's a person that I know.
yeah.
A person that I probably won't have an
Who are
effective conversation with.
Who are three people that you'd like to sit and have dinner with or whatever? Just sit and have all night to talk to them or be around them. Do you have anybody? Do you? Well, he thinks. Jordan Peterson
I
would
was
be
just
one
gonna
for
say,
me.
That would be
Jordan
that'd be
Peterson.
the first one.
I'd say if you could spend a day like 8 hours with people,
Yeah.
Jordan Peterson.
Dead or alive? Well, Jesus would be cool.
That would answer a lot of questions.
What
for you.
up,
would answer a lot of
what up,
questions for me.
J-Bone?
Yeah. So it'd be pretty cool to sit and talk with him, But Jordan Peterson,
Do you want to sit with Deion Sanders?
Deion Sanders, I would, yeah. Michael Jordan, I still would, just because he's so doesn't really put himself out there, and he's just so
kind of does his own thing.
I grew up as a child. That would be, if I look at people the same way as you. It's like that's a person, but that would be the one person I think about if I saw that's an athlete. I'd be like, are you real? Just because it would be
You just
like,
walk up and you're like,
yeah, because when you're a
I gotta
kid,
know.
I think it would bring that kid out of me.
oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that it would bring me back to that kid, and that feels good,
It's like do you remember the first time you met your first pro bodybuilder? Were you like,
Yes, that same feeling.
yeah? So that's why I was relating to that.
It was
'cause I know-
Nasser.
Oh, when he was in Des Moines.
Yeah.
I remember you telling me that
Yeah,
story.
I got Nasser. And
Mine was Victor Martinez
oh yeah,
in 2008. It was before. That was the year that
the year that he should have won.
It was after the year that
The year after he should have won 07. Yeah,
But we were in Kansas City, Missouri at the Folly Theater with Chad Nichols' show.
Yeah.
And I saw him walk through the hotel lobby and I was like,
oh my God, Victor
dude,
Martinez.
I just stared and I walked up and I was like, Mr. Martinez, I'm a huge fan.
Huge fan of your work.
I was like, I just can't believe it. He's like, oh yeah, cool, bro.
It's
Like,
not cool, bro.
it's totally.
Gotta stay healthy, bro. Without your health, you've got nothing.
No, he was like, is there any restaurants around here, man?
Yeah.
He goes, I just want to eat. And I'm like, there's one in the lobby. I'll take you to it.
Yeah.
But I couldn't believe how someone could be that. I've never seen someone of that
That big?
mutation.
Yeah, you look at the skin,
Dude, and I just
the-
couldn't. I was
yeah.
like, I am so weird right now, and I know I am, but I just can't.
Yeah.
That was the first real bodybuilder I ever saw, and I couldn't get over it.
I'm
But
like that
it's-
in most conversations.
Huh?
I'm like that with most conversations.
The feeling, or what do you mean? Like, oh, the
I know I'm being weird, but I know I can't stop doing it.
So just go with me. Just bear with me.
Yeah.
Let's just keep it rolling.
Really? You feel that way?
Yeah.
Not when you talk to me though,
No.
or us. Like, yeah. So like, but I've seen you talk to other. I've seen you when people come up to you and talk to you and stuff, and you don't seem weird, dude.
It has.
You feel weird in those moments,
Yeah.
or awkward.
Most of the
Really?
time, yeah.
Oh, it doesn't look weird.
Oh well, that's good.
It doesn't sound weird.
Yeah, no, you do fine. You're fine.
Because if it was, we'd be like, dude, just don't.
Yeah, I'd be like, Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Or Nick, I got to ask you a question.
I'd step in. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's also weird because I have people that know me that I don't know them because they know me from Instagram or YouTube or something.
Yeah.
And they just do the same thing like you did to Victor, but much less. Okay. I'm just like, someone knows me.
Dude, I was with. Do you know anything about Nasser?
I know a bit.
Dude, he was a legend because Nasser was the guy that like everybody hated but loved because he was incredibly intelligent.
Didn't he know like 6 languages or something?
Yeah.
Was he like,
Yeah.
I remember that was the first tidbit I heard about
was
him.
incredibly smart, incredibly narcissistic, incredibly manipulative, but everyone was just like, that's just Nasser. Like he talked so much shit about everybody behind their but that was just how Nasser was. So I'm 18 years old and I get to spend a whole night with him, just me and him. Because some people were in some trouble. I guess the legal case is over, but there was a huge legal case in Des Moines and like all the pros were there. And my friend that was a cop he's like, hey, I'm driving around this Nasser. I'm like, Nasser El Sanbati? And he's like, yeah. He's like, he's looking for someone to train with and whatnot. And I'm like,
Pick me.
Yeah, I'm 10 weeks out of my first show. And I'm like, I meet him at the gym. I walk in and I see him and it's that same feeling, but I was trying to play it cool. Like I did really good. I feel like I was 18.
Bro.
I'm like, Nasser, nice to meet you. You know, it's very nice. And he's like, hey, Matt, very nice to meet you. I am Nasser El Sanbat. I'm like, I know. And like, I was reading off all the stuff I knew about him. And I remember we were in the locker room. We go to the locker room and he has a tank top and he's like looking in the mirror, not shy at all. And then he had this rear delt that he got infected on a shot and he's showing that to me. We just met. I didn't want to ask him anything. But he encouraged me to. He's like, ask me anything, Matt, anything. And I didn't ask him shit. I did. I asked him, I'll tell you what I asked him. I can't believe I never told you this story. I said, well, I eat a lot of McDonald's. And he's like, good. And I'm like, he goes, I eat McDonald's. I'm like, yeah, but like, I get like a double quarter pounder meal and another sandwich. And he's like, good. I get the same. And apple pie. Love the apple pie. He's like, one time I was at McDonald's and I was eating it. And this fat bitch, she looked at me and said, you should not be eating that. I said, no, you should not be eating that. Like, it's just stuff like that, dude. And I remember we went to I had to get gas. And he walked into the gas. He's like, you want Diet Coke? And he was like 8 weeks out it was the last year of the Night of Champions, which do you know what that is? You do? Oh, good for you. God, you
had the best lighting at that show.
The New York Pro before it was called the New York Pro.
Correct. Yeah. It was the last year. It was the Night of Champions. He was like 8 weeks out. He's like, you want Diet Coke? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, this guy's drinking Diet Coke. I hadn't competed yet, and I'm like, this is crazy. He walks out. He's got 2 liters warm. Just sits in it just sits in my truck at the time. And he's just drinking 2 liters. Oh, and then we went to this place called Hoo Hot from there. It was, it's what is that? How do you explain that?
Hibachi, but it's a buffet.
Mongolian grill.
Sorry, but they do like the hibachi style.
Well, cooking. you pack all the meat and the stuff you want in the bowl, and then you take it to the person to cook it, and they're on a circular grill, and they just cook it there and then put it in the bowl and give it back to you. And we sit down. Oh man, this is hilarious. We sit down. Nikki Luloff is the waitress. This is like this girl that was a year older than me that was like super hot. Like I had just graduated high school, right? And so I'm like, oh hey, and she sits us down, and he goes and gets the veggies and sits back at the table and just starts eating them raw. And she's like, sir, you need to cook those. He's like, I don't want. He's like hovering over his food like he's in prison. He's like, I don't want to cook them. And she's like, you can't eat those. He's like, I don't care. He's like, leave me alone. And then like she goes and gets the manager and he gives his spiel. He's like, and he's like, everything's fine. And So we did that. But the coolest part of this story with Nasser was he was the guest. I get to my show. I was like 10 weeks out. I get to my show, which was the Missouri State Championships, Chad's show, and he was a guest poser. And I saw him backstage, and he comes back, and he remembered me. His face lit up. He's like, Matt. He's like, how are you? And then like everybody around was like, he knows that. That was like the coolest I ever felt in my life. Yeah. Because between that and then like I won that show as a teenager, the novice, not the open, novice and teen class. And I had him and Matt Duvall, which was you probably don't know who that was. He was really popular back then.
Yeah, big muscle tech guy, big arms.
Yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah.
Chris Cormier and Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman and Chris didn't talk to me, but Matt Duvall and Nasser are like blown. They're like, you're the best teenager we've ever seen. Like, or Matt Duvall was like, you're the best teenager since King Kamali. Apparently he was a really good teenage bodybuilder. And so my head's just like, dude. And then I went to teen nationals the next week and I got my ass kicked. But that was the first pro bodybuilder I met. That was Nasser. He unfortunately passed away, but he was a legend. Good old stories of Nasser.
Was an epic story.
Yeah. Who's the first pro you ever met?
Wasn't a pro yet. It was Nick.
Oh.
Walker, yeah.
Where did you meet him?
At Revive.
Before he won North Americans?
Mm-hmm.
Was he was down at Revive before he won North Americans? Man, I'm like, my timelines are so...
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
No, I think he had already won because he won in 2020.
Then if that's the case, then yeah, I met him when he was...
So when he was a pro. So, but either way, it's still the first one you ever met. Yeah. So that you didn't get that feeling because he's like your age. It's a little bit older.
Well, I felt really competitive. I'm like, darn it. Like,
yeah, you looked at it as like a competition.
yeah, it's like, oh.
Yeah.
I knew I was nowhere near a competition. But
yeah, but it like,
geez.
You're like, man, yeah.
Yeah, it's like, I think he's like 3 years older than me. Is he 28 now?
Yeah.
Yeah, 3 years older. So I'm like, I got to make up that much ground. 3 years. I'm like, holy cow.
Yeah, that's a whole different perspective because I was 18 and Nasser was like 40. Yeah. You know? And it's just magazines, social media didn't exist. Like he was just an absolute like legend to me. Like I didn't think he was real. Mm-hmm. You know? And then for you,
yeah.
It's such an interesting thing to think about, man.
See the mutant as the first person. I'm like, oh my God.
And he's only a few years older than you.
I know.
And you're like,
yeah, it's a little depressing. I'm like, oh God. That's gonna be tough.
Did it make you feel like did it make you rethink? Because there's guys that I've run into that I was just like, what am I even wasting my time for?
Nope.
No?
Nope. It's like, all right, we got 3 years.
Go time.
Let's do it. Yep.
Yeah.
And then, well, I'm not even close. So, that's what it is.
We're still at square one. Yeah. You are a lot bigger.
Yeah.
But so's he.
Yeah.
Well, he's not really, he's not bigger as far as weight, but he's the better. His physique is on another level.
Yeah, he is on stage at the weight that I currently am in off season. I think he's probably going to be heavier on stage than I am right now.
I think he was 248, I think, at the Arnold. 248 for 249, something like that.
All right, yeah.
Which was about the same as he was last year. So he's at that stage in his career where his weight is kind of going to be the same, but it's just going to simmer.
Yeah, I'm just shy of 270, so.
Yeah, but yeah, he'll be in the 250s, the rest of his career on stage. Which is another thing me and Jacoby talked about. It's interesting to think about is this it goes in waves, right? Like everything is cyclical, but these people, I mean, especially girls, I have to have this conversation every week with girls of gaining weight, and it's okay to gain weight. But guys are like that too a lot lately. Like people are so obsessed with staying lean. Mm-hmm. They're so obsessed with it. I'm seeing more of it. People kind of got away from it for a little bit, but I think people are starting to get more back to it because I'm getting that from a lot of guys I'm coaching now too. Mm-hmm. And I don't think anyone should be fat. Yeah, that's obviously, we want to keep insulin sensitivity. We want to keep all that. I understand that. But there's also, people are obsessed with not gaining weight at all. And then it's like they're just obsessed with the blood glucose monitor And Jacoby said it perfect. He's like, this isn't a blood work contest. And it's like,
Sorry.
he's not wrong, you
That's
know?
a good way to
But it's
put
like,
it.
we need to have these things and like, you know, the blood work and GI. And that's what I asked Austin on our Instagram live we did. I'm like, dude, you know, the thing that gets me, it's like, these things are all useful pieces of information to have, but some people get so obsessed with it and paralyzed with it that they do make it a blood work contest, and they do make it a GI map contest, and they make it a blood glucose contest. And it's like, you focus on just that, you're not gonna get that big. It's just, you know, and that's what my point was with Austin, is he knows all that, understands all that, but he doesn't let it paralyze him from still being a good bodybuilder and producing good bodybuilders, right? Yeah. And that's what would like to think that I am that way too. There's a balance between everything. I don't remember what the hell I was talking about. Why did I bring that up? Oh, gaining weight. Yeah. What's interesting to think about is there's the evolution in the career of a bodybuilder, right? Like when we all, and I'm talking about open guys, men's physique and classic.
Guys that are pushing to be the biggest.
Guys that are pushing to be as big as they can all the time. Yes, thank you. Bodybuilding. You go through this evolution where everyone starts off and you just kind of like have that same watery, sloppy look, right? And I explain this to all my guys that I have. We go through this process. So when I get someone, it's like, where are they at in their career? Because that changes over time. The more muscle you get, the leaner you are going to stay all year round without even trying. You eventually get to the point where you're like Brett or you're like Ian. Not like, I don't want to say like those guys, but I'm using them as examples. Yeah. Brett, Ian, Nick, all these guys that have that level of muscle, they're maxing their frames out, and they can't eat any more food. Yeah,
they can't eat enough for them to get outrageously fat.
They're not going to get there. Yeah. But even those guys, okay, this is what me and Jacoby are talking about. Even those guys still lose 40 pounds off season to get on stage. Every prep I did, I'd lose about 40. What do you lose? 40?
Oh yeah.
Every time. It's like It's like the 40-pound rule. It's like you lose 40 pounds. You can be like, because you go into it every time, it's like, oh, I'm pretty lean. I'm 265. I'm going to be 245 on stage. I'm going to be close. 242. You end up 227.
On a good day.
Yeah.
After carbing up.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah. And that's just the way it is. So it's like we were talking about his guy, Justin O'Donnell. Yeah. We love him to death. It's like he got up to 285. He's already down to 255. He looks phenomenal, by the way.
Looks really good.
Yeah. And Jacoby's already got 30 off of him. And it's like, you know, people can sit and they'd be like, well, why did you didn't need to be 285 then? No, he did need to be 285. If he wasn't, he grew. Yeah. It's so it's like, you know, help me out with the point I'm trying to make. It's just like
the point you're trying to make is that as people don't need to stay lean all the time, and through all of their off seasons trying to tend themselves to be leaner is a good idea, but it comes with a downside, is that you don't end up seeing that progression happen as quickly. It's going to take a lot longer, more years of doing all the same stuff for you to get to that level of muscularity that it's not hard for you to get to that peak off season without you looking like shit.
Yeah. If you're worried about your weight constantly and staying lean, you're just never going to get there. Like you're never going to get big enough.
Yep. Unless you are really gifted, then none of the rules really.
Well, yeah, then those rules don't apply to you anyways. Yeah.
Or you are just destroying yourself with drugs.
True.
Just going off the wall with them and not really ever coming.
Yeah. Which, speaking about drugs, and then we'll stop.
Yeah.
I get asked a lot, what is, especially by girls, sometimes not as much by guys, but what's your stance on, how do you implement PEDs? And I hate that question because it's so hard to answer, because it's like, dude, I type like an essay, but you realize most coaches don't. It's so black and white for them. It's absolute. Well, I like to use this and this and this and this. Or it's like a client will be like, what do you want me to take? Well, I don't know.
Right.
What do you want to take? What have you taken? What's your experience level like? Like, I mean, so it's just, I wanted to get into that kind of stuff. And the best way to answer that question to just get people to think about it differently, because it's a lot to think about, but at the same time, people that are deep in the trenches that have been this for a long time kind of know what the norm is. So it's not a lot to think about. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you just got enough of the heuristics down that you know. You just do to a degree. But when I'm asked the question, because I have to answer this fairly frequently, and I don't struggle with the answer too much.
Let's hear it.
So typically when I'm asked, I will just start with, generally, the way that I go about it is more, I use the term safer use model, because that's kind of the way that I tend most of the time, where I'm a little bit different with the way that I implement PEDs than you do. And we know this about each other.
Yes.
But I'm also, I'll say this right out front, is that I'm kind of adjusting my views over time as well. I'm not fully in on that either, because I'm not trying to get myself stuck in the blood work wars.
Yeah.
So, and I'm seeing some of the downsides and some of the positives in each of the sides a little bit more clearly now, since I've gotten a little bit more time in the trenches doing it with more and more people.
Yes.
But I've tended towards the safe use model as my base, so I always give that as the start.
What is the safe use model?
Safe use model is using the minimal amount of total drugs of all types.
Yeah, total milligrams we're talking.
Total milligrams and counting ancillaries.
Mm-hmm.
So the least amount of AI use possible, the least amount of like trying to not ever have to touch CABR or any of that stuff. Like anything that's trying to stop a side effect of another thing you're already taking.
Yes.
It's like, why don't you just not have so much of it or use it at all and use something else so that you don't have to take double the drug, which has their own issues to it that are going to cause you other long-term problems that you didn't need to do in the first place, because other things will cover the anabolic gap anyway.
Yep, totally get it.
So the safe use model is not my model. Many other people much smarter than me with pharmacology have coined that term. I'm not going to say anyone's names. But it would be primarily you use a lower-ish test base. So you bring that up and you titrate that from a lower point, roughly just above TRT levels, and then bring that up to, usually in people it's 300 to 400.
Yep.
Ish is about where you can get where you don't see like estrogenic sides start to pop up.
Typically, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd agree.
So bring it about to where they can get to without having any of those sides pop up. Pin that where it is, leave it,
Ride it.
and then fill the rest of the anabolic need with Primo or Masteron.
Okay, this is where we're going to debate. Keep going.
Yeah. So filling the rest of it with that, because they're already not going to turn into anything else. They're not going to become downstream problems, becoming other hormones that you have to manage. So you don't have to deal with any other AI use or anything like that. Already done. From what we understand from the research that was done on them, they are just as good at putting down real muscle tissue as any other of the anabolics. But they have less of a side effect profile. They have to deal with in acute periods of time, directly when you're taking it, short term and longer term. So safer. Not safe, safer. Mm-hmm. And then if you can get what you need out of that, you don't necessarily have to dabble with the things that we know have other major issues.
Yeah.
Things like everyone's talked, people smarter than me on this, talking about things like EQ, which is really kidney toxic and nephrotoxic and all this stuff, like does not great things and not any better of an anabolic on paper than the DHT derivatives like Primo or Masteron. Also trying to avoid orals for the most part so that you don't incur any extra damages to liver that is going to make things already more difficult for you. So really the whole thing that I explain without saying all of that in my answer to somebody that's asking me the question is I tend to use the minimum amount that I need to, and I try to tend towards things that are going to cause the least amount of issues so that we don't have to double up anywhere. Find the easiest thing that you can do that is going to cause you the least amount of issues, least amount of side effects, least amount of blood work problems that we have to deal with, so we can do this sustainably for a much longer period, even having your cycles last longer because you don't have the health detriments pop up as quickly. so that we can extend the runway of your progressions as far as we can take them and drive the growth through you having good lifestyle habits and you eating enough, and then having the drugs to bolster, rather than it become the milligram war and trying to put in everything you can to try and get something to happen.
I agree with all those points. The problem is, so let's apply this to real life now.
Yep.
So gearhead talk.
Yep.
You're taking the safe model approach, and the things that I've been seeing from clients that I get that are doing this, it's like TRT or slightly above TRT, so 200, 300, 400 milligrams, it's the most I'm seeing testosterone. And then I'm seeing people taking a gram of Masteron. And it's like, you're just not going to get big enough. Like, and is it a safer model? I guess safer than what? I don't know. I don't know that I even necessarily agree with that. If Masteron is a DHT derivative, which is 5 times more androgenic than testosterone, I mean, a gram of Masteron is going to fuck your lipids up too, really bad. You know, and if DHT is the what's responsible for things like hair growth, penis sizes when you're in the embryo, you know, the sexual characteristics, more of those types of traits than it is actually building muscle. And from what I have seen and what anybody that's been around bodybuilding for a really long time has seen is, if you apply that to real life and you're taking just that cycle that I said, you're not going to get as big. And that's the argument that we all have. It's like, okay, that sounds all amazing and sexy, but you take TRT and a bunch of Primo, or TRT with a bunch of Masteron, it's just not the same. And at the other end though, I don't agree with, you know, you don't need 2 grams of testosterone. You don't need a gram of testosterone. I've done it. It doesn't work but there is a sweet spot, right? But the argument is finding that sweet spot without having to use any type of ancillary or AI. I guess that's where
that's the problem though. That's the stop. That's the issue at hand.
Yeah, but I just don't see that being any more detrimental than the other thing.
And that's why it's muddy water.
It's so muddy because it's like I believe in it's like finding that sweet spot that you can only find based like on every individual, using it's almost like using the highest amount of tests you can that it's not causing side effects, while using the minimum amount of AI that you need to combat estrogenic side effects with that testosterone, and then stacking that with something else that makes sense, but then controlling the duration of the cycle and being smart that way. Yeah. You know, and then just replicating that over time. That's what we've been doing for year and after year after year after year after year. And until an open bodybuilder comes out that is like, I got to 280 pounds on 200 milligrams of test and 1,000 milligrams. Maybe there are out there and I just don't see them. Are they?
I think there probably are.
Are there?
I think so, yeah. Because there's going to be people that just can't use other stuff. Like there's people like me that can't use 19 NORs. Yeah, no, I totally get though. It's like, if you can't use them, you can't use them. Then yeah, we got to go another route. Yeah. You know, and that's where I feel like people don't need to like, it's one or the other. I think it can be both this is why it's dependent on the person. Yeah. Right? Yeah. Which is also why I don't ever have like a rule. I'm like, I won't use this. I typically just wouldn't use EQ. Like that's kind of where, and that's not a solid thing.
When you said that to me, I thought about it and I thought, you know what? Well, maybe I've never read anything about the kidney toxicity thing. But when I thought about it, I'm like, well, maybe it's not just because people had high blood pressure. I used to just be like, well, that's people that all the guys from the 90s and early 2000s that had issues. Because obviously there's there was a problem somewhere. Something needed to be done. There's something that we need to do to be safer and smarter about this, because the slew of issues that we're seeing guys have, cardiovascular and kidney issues, those are the two things we see. Something has to be done.
Yep.
I'm not that naive, right?
Yep.
But it's like I feel like that's kind of like if everything's polar and just blasting androgens is on one side, shotgun and everything, and taking 5 grams is on one side, and then on the other side it's TRT with the gram of Masteron or Primo. Those are the two sides. I feel like it's somewhere in the middle. That's the point. That's where I'm trying to be. And I think what you're saying is that's where you're ultimately getting to as well.
Yeah. Because I use with everything, I use the best information that I can find from the most knowledgeable people that are smarter than me to go with that first.
Yeah.
I go, especially with something that I know, like we're making decisions that could hurt people.
Exactly, yeah.
And so tending towards like, what is the overwhelming evidence that even if it's just pretty on paper, if it's pretty on paper and we have enough proof that, okay, this is better on paper for these reasons, tend towards this. This is the way to go. Good thinking, okay? Even if we don't have like longitudinal data for like a long time to know whether or not it is actually better in the very end after a decade, 2 decades doing it, like we don't have that information. But we can go off of mechanisms and short-term studies and stuff like that. And the things that we have is minuscule for what we can actually make these judgments on, other than looking at mechanisms of like the pharmacokinetics and dynamics, which I don't understand well enough to talk about. So there's people that I would go to that can speak on that. And at some point, maybe we'll have them on so that they can talk both of us under a table.
Yeah,
that would be
absolutely. That'd be fun.
It'd be fun.
That'd be really fun.
Yeah, because I'd like to know more about all of it so I can make better informed decisions. But where I'm going is that starting there is at least making sense logically. Is, okay, safer use model, you use the minimum amount, like the maximum amount.
But does someone, hang on real quick, does someone, like these other people, are they purely against using other compounds? Are they purely against using DECA, NPP, Dianabol, Anadrol? Are they against? Some of them are.
Some compounds are like,
it's just this. No,
it just don't.
Okay.
Like, and EQ is the most popular one. It's just like, just don't. Like, there's other things you could do, just don't. So that one is pretty much the most maligned of everything. And then there's like the ones that are a little bit more exotic that most people don't even think to even talk about because you're not really gonna have a conversation over Trestolone, something like that. Like,
it was hot for a little bit.
Right. Yeah. But that's one of those that's just like kind of pops up, shows its head.
Yeah. Same with DHB and
it's the groundhog.
One test sip. Yeah.
Right. Those are the groundhogs. They just pop up every once in a while. People know what they are and then they just disappear again because they don't really get used a lot. Yeah. So like the most popular mainstay of them that is kind of like pushed off the table is EQ. And so I have tended away from that for the reasons that I said. And then I also, knowing that like most people tend to have like neurological issues or emotional issues using 19 Nors, I tend away from that as well. And if I am going to use them, it's typically with people that have some sort of previous use with them and have gotten along with them.
It's fine, yeah.
Yeah, or if I'm trying it for the first time, it's because I've pushed their test to where I can get it to. I have a DHT to the highest place that I can get it to, really, that I don't really want to push it any further. And then that's another way of getting a little bit more in, but I still keep it low so that we could just see and maybe find out. And what I've honestly seen for the most part is anytime a 19 Nor gets put in, they immediately have psychological issues. Anxiety starts getting crazy. They start they get paranoid. Depression gets really heavy.
Yeah, and it's like at that point, the benefit is just not there. I mean, I just had that happen to a guy too. He's like, "Hey, coach, I'm feeling this way. Can I stop taking?" I'm like, "Dude, absolutely, yeah, 100%. Yeah, we're not taking it ever again." Like, the benefit isn't there.
Yeah,
but for people that don't experience that,
it's a tool.
It's a definite tool.
Yeah. So it's something to try and see, but for the most part, I tend away from that. Yeah. So it kind of like it narrows the field down quite a lot for me. It's like, okay, I don't really want to have the matogramma test because that overflows into a lot of other things that cause other problems. It's like, okay, so I'm going to keep that where I can get it to without having to mess with anything else. Then put in as much Primo or Masteron as I can, and then maybe put in an oral. And the list of those is very small as well. Yeah. And so it's pretty limiting, but I'm also not closed off to the other ways of being able to do it because I also recognize we don't have the long-term data to know, like, well, is
hammering DHTs. Like,
yeah. Is a gram of Master or a gram of Primo going to actually be any better for the long-term health than you doing it through other means with the other things that we feel are not as good?
Yeah.
Or just having test higher and then having to control those with AI or any other specific drugs that'll help with the side effects.
To me, that makes the most sense. And when I say, I'm talking like, I don't really like even take anybody over 750 anymore. You know, 750 a gram has always been like, wouldn't you say that's always been like, as long as we've been bodybuilding, that's what 750 to the gram is like, that's just what you do.
If you heard somebody go over that, you're like, dude.
You'd hear people go up to 1,200 sometimes. Like,
Well, I'm saying like 15
12,
or above.
1,500.
Like, you know, people, like not a lot of people, but you have, but that was always the rule, like 1G.
I did. What's the most you ever did?
I think that's all we've ever gone up to was 1,000. And if I've never seen a plan that was more than that.
Yeah, well, I didn't know if you maybe took more than I told you to at some point.
I've remember when you had to force me to eat junk food? Like I was that way with everything, where it was always just so.
I took 2 grams. I took 2 grams once for a couple weeks, and I was like, I don't feel any different. I don't feel any better or any worse. And it's like, this is kind of pointless.
It's not worth it. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't see
Your
any.
body can tell you if it's even like when you don't notice anything. It's almost like when people talk about
like the typical cycles back then were like, it was like you just go gram a test, 600 deca, 600 EQ,
and just go.
Maybe
throw some D-ball or Anadrol if you had it.
Yeah.
Just a little bit, just to you know.
See, like that kind of stuff, I don't really agree with anymore as much as like. But I'm not. You can't also anybody that's been involved or in the upper echelons of bodybuilding. We know what those cycles look like, and it's like. It's kind of what they're. I'm not saying that's what they're all doing, but that wouldn't be insane. Like those things that I just said.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's like some people are going to roll their eyes at that. Some people are going to be like, "Oh my God, that is crazy. You're all going to die." Like, and that's I guess the point I'm trying to make is the correct answer is it, with everything. The context matters and it depends.
Yeah.
That's treating it as the individual because there's so many things that go into it. What the incorrect answer is anybody that answers that in absolutes. Yeah.
Yeah. Because we don't have enough to go off of.
No. Yeah.
But one of the things that I do want to get to saying here is that I do have some people that are pretty high test, like 700s.
Ooh, you're putting
Yeah, I do have some people that are pretty high, and they handle it just fine.
Yeah.
Some of them.
Yeah. Without an AI. Yeah.
Some of them.
I could do that. I could take a gram without an AI.
Yeah, I don't know if I can or not. Probably not.
Let's find out.
I doubt it.
Peer pressure.
I think I would have Gyno within the week. So
yeah, you probably would.
Tiggled biddies just milking.
Yeah, it would be pretty outrageous. Probably.
Nick is always just so super emotional.
It's just the other problem. The other thing too that we talk about is it surprising to you because like growing up, we're in the era we grew up in. Nobody used Primo just because we just always assumed it was fake.
I still whenever anybody asks me like what should I get, I'm like I usually tell them right out. It's like I would have you have Primo if we could guarantee that it was real.
Yeah, and it's just it's usually causes PIP, and it's like if you're gonna take a gram of it, that's 10 cc's a week. It's just like
a whole bottle a week.
Man, yeah. So it's like we just left it. All of us, we just left it alone.
Or 10 amps back when we were getting into amps.
Yeah.
So that's why I tend towards Masteron.
Yeah,
because it's so close.
I had one of my girls ask me. She's like, "Hey, these guys." She's like, "I only get 25 and 50 milligram Anavar. These guys told me that it's not real because real Anavar only comes in 10." So I'm like, man, these people just don't get it. It's like they just don't understand. It's like I said, well, ask them what brand of gear they take, and if it's anything other than, Watson, Shearing. I'm having a mind blank right now. Organon, Desma, like all of the actual legitimate licensed pharmaceutical companies, then tell them that all their shit's fake too, because they're just not understanding that's a common thing, how it works. Like
how the sausage got made.
Yeah, they're not understanding how the sausage got made. Yeah, they don't have any, they think because of labels on it, it's pharma.
Yeah.
And that's not how it works. There's licensed pharmaceutical companies that make things, And then there's the underground lab, which is everything else, which is probably what 99.9999999% of you are taking.
Yeah. Even if you think it's
even if you think it's pharma because it says Hulk Pharma Labs on it. That's not a legitimate licensed pharmaceutical company.
obviously,
Yeah.
But the hologram labels.
Yeah, but
The real hologram labels.
it's got a lot number on it.
See?
Yeah.
Like, all right.
But people don't understand that, dude, and I'm not making fun of them because they just don't know what they don't know, but that's what I'm trying to teach people the difference. So it's like, okay, we'll tell those kids that yes, like Par, Anavar, and I think it was Surly or Searle or something was the other brand pharmaceutical company that made Anavar. Yes, it only comes in a maximum of 10 milligram dosages, but that doesn't mean that if you get Anavar elsewhere that it's not real. It could be, it could not be, but that's just like every other steroid that we're buying. We don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Unless you test them.
Right.
So,
yep. So that kind of encapsulates where we're at with PEDs. This like our general with what we do. So, and as time goes on, I'm shifting more like into that center where kind of we're kind of at two different sides of the center.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong, dude. I still want to do, I'm figuring out a way to the most effective, safest, but still produce the best possible physique you can produce, right? And it's like we're always should be trying to strive to get there.
Yeah. We're all just figuring that out.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's probably going to be somewhere like almost approximating what it used to be, just smarter with doses and what you use.
Doses and duration probably too.
Yeah. And specific things to avoid.
Yeah.
Just calibrate.
Do you think that we're close to getting to a time where steroids are going to be obsolete? No.
I don't know what would be replacing them.
Just changing your DNA?
Gene doping.
Yeah.
What's that called? CRISPR.
That's
No, because what are you going to do? You're going to turn off your myostatin genes?
Yeah, I saw
every
that.
Single organ in your body.
I watched it. No, I was watching something where the guy that started CRISPR injected himself with a myostatin blocking agent in front of people, like it was like at a convention. And he's like, "I'm going to block my myostatin." He injected himself with it, and everyone's like, "Yeah." And then I remember seeing that like 3 years ago. I would venture it to guess he's not huge.
Yeah.
But people have been coming out with myostatin inhibitors forever, man. They always used to come out with them, even supplements. And then there's follistatin that people are buying. People still send that to me. It's so expensive. They're like, this is what I need.
No.
That's not what you need.
No. I don't think we're ever going to replace it.
Yeah. This is it.
Because
I wonder if there's going to be any new I wish there was like one more drug that would come out. Me and Jansen used to say that all the time because to use in the off season, it's like we're just so. I wish there was just like one. I wish someone would create one more that's just a nice, clean, anabolic and moderately androgenic. You know, something like Primo Plus. Yeah, something that's like in PP but not a 19 nor that causes those effects. Like, can someone come up with that?
Yeah. Well,
it'd be great.
I mean, they tried with.
Yeah, they keep trying.
The SARMs generations.
I know, but
it's just not.
Again, those died off pretty quick.
Yeah.
Nobody asks me about SARMs anymore.
No, the problem is just like it seems like as they tried to get further and further selective, it just lost its potency.
It's not doing anything.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
It loses its potency, but then it creates other more exaggerated issues.
Yeah.
Like we get health issues enough from just anabolics. But then the SARMs, like if they were actually what they were supposed to be, they messed people up.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Like people's blood work on those.
Oh, no shit.
Horrific.
I never took them, so I know. I never had anybody else take them. So
yeah.
Well,
I had friends of mine.
What were they doing? The same thing as taking like a high dose of androgens?
Ostarine, LGD.
Oh yeah, Ostarine
or YK11 or all that.
Yeah, and then
muscle gainer.
No, but what were they do? What was it doing to the blood work? Just the same stuff as like taking a high level of androgens would.
Okay. Lipids were absolutely ridiculous. Like not anything you would see on anabolics usually.
Which is
like worse. Oh damn.
Worse. That was like the worst part of it.
So you got
that, and then
all the
like,
side effects, but no benefit, basically.
Yeah, and
That's what people don't understand is they created
your basic blood panel too. It's like your actual like your blood was messed up.
Like your CBC.
Your CBC. That was that was the acronym I was.
No, I got you. I know what you're saying.
CBC was messed up. Heavily.
Yeah, which is white and red blood cell counts.
White and red blood cell counts. Your hematocrit was messed up.
CBC is complete
seriously messed up.
Holy crap.
Platelets really high. Just bad. Not good. If it was real, if it was fake, nothing. But
well, yeah.
If it was real, it was messing you up, and it wasn't getting you much. Yeah.
No wonder they died off quickly.
Yeah.
Good thing.
Yeah. SARMs.
And that I speak from experience on. So not from me, but people I know.
Yeah.
Did you ever take SARMs?
No. At the time, the people that I knew were taking them, I was just using.
Oh, you were already on the sauce. You were already on sauce.
Taking Osterin.
Just like, I'm just not.
Yeah.
I'm just gonna,
You guys are dumb.
Yeah, I'm just gonna do this.
This is testosterone was created in like 1953, and the Soviets used it to crush everybody, and then we figured that out, and then created Dianabol from there, and then it's like all these other things after that.
Made 1935.
Which people don't Oh, is it 35? Wow.
Adolf Butenandt.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because we think
Isn't it
that
from titrating dog urine. Wasn't that the story?
Yeah, he's what the heck?
I think
I don't
he
know, but it's the
spun
Soviets
dog
that made
urine-
it.
dog
The
urine
Soviets made it
centrifuge.
famous in the weightlifting arena because they kicked the shit out of everybody, and then some doctor figured that out, and then he worked with CIBA. I don't know if that's how you say it. CIBA. That was a pharmaceutical company. They created Dianabol from that because then they were trying to create things better than they're like, oh, testosterone does this. Let's make something better. And then that's what people don't realize. That's what all these other steroids are. They're derivatives of either testosterone itself. They just alter it to try to maximize, the anabolic properties and minimize the androgenic and side effects, right? So that's what people don't get.
Yeah.
People don't understand that.
Yeah.
It's like these are just derivatives of testosterone or derivatives of DHT, or I guess I don't know how you'd explain a 19-nor to somebody.
Well, 19-nor is describing a chemical position.
Yeah.
And so
It's still a derivative of testosterone.
Yeah, it's 19-nor testosterone.
Yeah, it's 19-nor testosterone.
Yeah.
So, again, it's just either a derivative of that, of testosterone, or DHT, and then there's what all of these other things have branched upon, and then it's like we've just kind of gravitated towards these other compounds at certain times of the year to your point, you use them because they have a less chance of having side effects, and then bodybuilders think of them as bulkers or cutters, and it's like...
Yeah, we don't even have the time to go through
Yeah,
that.
we don't have the time to go through all that, but anyways, that was a brief... kind of brief.
Yeah.
We could talk about this
forever. and we will, because we have a podcast, so we will.
Yeah.
But it is getting way late for us. So
I said, let's go an hour, and that turned into 2.
Yeah, so we're going to call it now. So that's it, everybody. This is our totally BSing on pretty much no direct topic episode.
We didn't even talk about any of the things that we talked about that we were maybe going to talk about.
Nope, but that's okay.
Totally fine.
Because we're just going to label this episode BSing over nothing. And that'll just be what it is. So people will walk in and they'll know that they're just going to have this playing in the background.
There might be something useful in there.
There's
for
little,
somebody.
Yeah, there's little nuggets of things that are going to be takeaways.
Me and my brother used to pee in the same toilet at the same time and
there you go.
cross pisses,
That's great.
I'm reading about how they actually started with the discovery of testosterone. And it was taking testicles, a cock's testicles, like a rooster, and putting it in a hen. And then they started,
see what would happen.
Yeah. And then they started doing it with monkeys to humans. They would take a monkey's testicles and put it into a...
That's how they found testosterone in the first place?
Use.
Oh.
Like, okay, this produces an masculine effect.
Masculinizing effects.
There, they did mention something about a UA sample. I have to read into it, but I think you were on track with
Next
that.
episode, educate us all.
I'll have a total dissertation ready.
Write a paper.
Wonderful. Okay.